Guess what, everybody? Simply Enough is 1 year old.
I'm a little bit shook, as the kids say. Yes, it is a wrapping up and the culminating of a year, but also it's a beginning. It's a step forward. My first year in college, I had a professor who was a very strong mentor in my life. This professor, he talked a lot about, well, that's the beauty of life. And you can stop and reflect and decide what path you want to go forward. And now it was my chance to build Zach 2.0.
Love that. That's all part of the first year and becoming a sophomore. We win some, we learn some. That's the sophomore, the wise fool. How about new year, new thoughts? And those thoughts will up level. So a 2.0 edition might be a better or more favorite edition. You don't want to be that fish swimming, wondering where's the water. You want to be in that place already.
Now that we are thinking about 2.0, I think the advice is incredibly sound. Then you can go into the second year at peace, finding contentment, you're grounded. Welcome to Simply Enough. This is Zachary and Elizabeth, and thanks for tuning in.
If you're liking our podcast, we'd love it if you'd share with your friends and family.
And then rate and review to raise our visibility and spread the message of enoughness.
We love you, and remember, you are simply enough.
Just as you are.
Period.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Simply Enough. I'm Mr. Zachary Leonard.
And I'm Dr. Elizabeth Ignacio. And guess what, everybody? We are on episode 55. Do you know what that means? That means actually Simply Enough is 1 year old. I know that we do these episodes, once a week. So you'd think that 52 would be indicative of 1 year of this episode, but it's actually 55 because our first day of launch, we published 3 episodes at once. So happy birthday to Simply Enough. We're 1 year old. First year is done. And so guess what? In honor of the first year, we are going to be taking a little pause, a little break, not unlike, in high school or in college. We just finished our freshman year. And so we're going to take a little break in preparation for our sophomore year, our second year. And we're really excited. And most importantly, we're really grateful for all of you that have been on this journey for this entire year.
And what a year it's been, truly.
I know.
I can't tell you. I don't know what kind of idea I had going into this other than I was with somebody who I love and I trusted that there was a process.
Aww. And
now here we are. We're releasing this episode 1 year and a day after we dropped our first 3 episodes. Like the timing of all this, 55 is an angel number that speaks to new beginnings. Like there's just a lot of cohesion happening in this point in time. And I'm a little bit shook, as the kids say. I'm a little shook. Just how all of it has come together. So yes, it is in some ways the wrapping up and the culminating of a year, but also it's a beginning, it's a step forward. And as you were talking about, our freshman year, so to speak, I couldn't help but think of a story. If I can kick us off with a story in this regard. Absolutely. I have shared on previous episodes that I went away to college. I was a Southern California boy who went to Northern Indiana at Notre Dame, which is a big change. Finally, I was in an area with 4 seasons and I was away from home. I was on my own and was a big year in terms of growth. I was also at the end of my freshman year starting to come out to friends and really figure out my own identity and then want to share that with other people. Having gone home in May, it was going to be a month later that I actually came out to my parents. So my freshman year was a big year for me. That said, I gained the freshman 15, like so many people did.
Like so many, yes.
Right? You have all this delicious food in college. You're ready and you can sleep when you want. And
well, delicious is relative, depending on the college. But it's definitely omnipresent. So
yes. Well, and to that end, I look back and I'm like, I cannot believe I ate what I ate. And I'm like, no wonder I put on the weight. But anyway, so I had a professor
That's
of
all
mine.
part of freshman year, though.
Yeah, it is. It is. And that's actually, I think, what makes freshman year such an important part of the journey, right? That actually what makes your first year in anything part of the journey. And we've talked about it in previous episodes. You've got to just do it and figure it out. And you're not going to be like, quote unquote, whatever at the very beginning. It's all part of the learning and the growing. And that actually reminds me of another story, if we have time to share, about my first year teaching. But in this freshman year, it was a big year.
Now, by the way, sorry, everybody, first year. They're called first years now, not freshmen.
First year. Yes. Dating ourselves. First years.
Yes.
Yes. My first year, I had a professor who was a very strong mentor in my life. And this was a person that I had gone to regularly as I was starting to explore my identity, figure out how my identity fit in a very Catholic institution and a very demonstratively Catholic institution, and how my faith and my sexual identity, how they could interact or not, and et cetera, as well as what kind of friends I wanted to find and what kind of person I was growing up to be. And so there was just a lot for me at the end of that freshman year, in addition to putting on 15 pounds. And for those of you who listen, I was already husky to begin with. So this was, there was more of me to love. So in this particular moment, when I was speaking with this professor, my dad was going to be coming out to help me wrap up my dorm room. And I was trepidatious about this because I knew that some of my friends knew more about me than my dad did. And I also had grown in many ways that my parents were not privy to. But I was also nervous about my second year because there were things that about me that I wanted to shed that maybe I didn't really like anymore, really didn't fit with who I was. And then there were also parts of myself that I was embracing and I was growing into. But I was in this somewhat awkward transition place. Mm-hmm. And this professor was just so wonderful. And he stopped and he talked a lot about, well, that's the beauty of life. Like in these kind of culminating moments when you can stop and reflect and decide what path you want to go forward and maybe who you connect with and who you don't connect with. And it's okay to say goodbye to a relationship, many things that we've talked about, and it's okay to preserve relationships. But the piece that he really dug into was that now it was my chance to build Zach 2.0.
Love that.
And that was what he was saying, right? So, and that really struck me because I think at that point I was more in the, it's out of my control and I don't have a whole lot of say and I don't have a whole lot. And I'm just kind of going with the flow, bobbing in the ocean of life at this point without really a sense of what I had within my power or my domain as I move forward into my summer and then my second year in college. And he was the one that really marked the moment to say, no, you get to look back and you get to find all those pieces that stick out. And then you get to decide going forward in Zach 2.0, where you want to go with that. So that just connects with exactly what you were saying and was such a pivotal moment in my college life, but also just my adult identity too.
And I love that. And I love the idea of 2.0. So it's not about, especially with January behind us. And I wonder, and I'm curious how many people, have stuck with any resolutions that they might have made at the new year. We had talked about previous episodes in terms of resolutions. And a lot of times we put a lot of weight on resolutions. And one of the most common phrases, leading up to January 1st and through January is, new year, new you.
Yep.
And the one reason why I don't make resolutions, like hard and fast, like concrete resolutions, is just because that's so daunting. Mm-hmm. And not only daunting, but there's a part of like self-shaming in there of like, oh, I have to find a new me because the old me sucked, as opposed to how about new year, new thoughts, and those thoughts will up level or shift gears, and so a 2.0 edition might be a better or more favorite edition, but it's not about having to be entirely new. And that's why this pause that we're doing, in celebrating our first year, and this pause that listeners and viewers will be taking for a few weeks where we'll be, replaying some of our, favorite previous episodes. We're also taking the time during that break to pause, reflect, look back on our first year to see what Simply Enough 2.0 is going to be. And so for that sophomore year, I can't help but apply this in life for all of us. Again, sophomore year, did you know? Of course, here I'm going to get academic on everybody. Sorry. So sophomore is actually based on the two Greek roots. Soph is wise, and moro or moros is fool. And so sophomore year is actually known to be the wise fool. So you learn from your first year, but you still haven't got it all figured out. And that's okay. That's part of the process of being a sophomore of 2.0. It doesn't even mean we're ending at 2.0. There's still junior year and senior year and life beyond. And so it's not about being entirely new, but it's, up-leveled, upgraded edition, if you will, 2.0. And we can apply that in many things in life, even like we just talked about in terms of goals and resolutions. I tell clients of mine when they do make certain goals, for example, or objectives or resolutions, give yourself a 2-day goal, meaning don't judge yourself every day. Because if you give yourself a 2-day goal or a 2-day objective, when you fall off the wagon that day, whether it's, food, alcohol, a habit at work or whatever, in not making that goal that day, to have a 2-day goal or a 2-day objective or a 2-day resolution, your recognition and awareness that you didn't quite meet what you wanted to that day, you'll give yourself the space and grace that you will then do it the next day. And that way it's not a completely failed goal or failed mission, because you're allowing yourself a 2-day goal, as opposed to, if I fail today, then I might as well abandon completely. That was super clunky, but do you know what I mean by that?
I do know what you mean, because it was often the similar language that I would use in my classroom with students. If they were writing a story, or if they were trying out a book, or if they were if they had chosen an activity for play, it was always give it 2 days or give it 2 tries. Because the first try, to your point, is who knows how that first attempt is going to go. But that's not, I similarly never felt like that wasn't the time to then assess and decide whether to quit or to back out or decide it didn't fit you, but really then to apply what you learned from the first time, or to just let that first experience go and just be like, okay, that was number 1. And then go in with a little bit more of an informed perspective before then you can decide what you want to do going forward. So it was always just give it 2 days, or give it 2 tries, or, give it 2 attempts, who knows? And then we'll decide, rather than just a one and done. Totally
exactly.
Yes.
That's the point.
And I would also say that as an administrator, that was really an entrance into my first year teachers and conversations about how the first year of teaching went. And that was largely because I would have those conversations, largely because my first year teaching was a shit show. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't, but like in my mind, it was a shit show. And I'm grateful for that. Like, I'm grateful for all the things that happened and the lessons learned and whatnot. But I also knew that that was a very specific time, a very specific year, a very specific part of the process. And to judge whether or not I wanted to be a teacher based on my first year would be somewhat unfair. And so then taking that, and then my second year, I absolutely loved. Like, I really just knew at that point that education was the path for me. So when I would work as an administrator with teachers and would reflect on the first year, if I got a sense that a teacher was saying, well, I don't know if this is for me, I think I'm done, it was always, well, how open are you to one more year? So think about it in a 2-year cycle, not necessarily a 1-year cycle. Do you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And a little nuance to that as well is whether it's contemplating leaving a job
Mm-hmm.
or leaving a relationship or leaving the neighborhood or like, when one is contemplating and assessing whether or not to leave, quit, let go, whatever the words might want to be, try to leave content with the situation. And then if you leave from a place of content with the situation, but still assess, now that you are in a content mindset, you can objectively assess whether or not that place, that relationship, that job, that neighborhood is right for you without it being, reactionary
Mm-hmm.
or emotional about it. Because a lot of times, there's a saying, wherever you go, there you are,
Mm-hmm.
meaning if you are in a situation, let's say a job environment, and you really, you hate it, and what's top of mind is how it sucks and the people sucks and the job sucks and the work sucks and all that kind of stuff. That kind of mindset and energy you take to the next job. And so that type of person can often find themselves changing job after job after job after job and feel like, geez, I can never find a job that'll make me happy. The irony is if one can find themselves at peace and content, maybe still not happy in that environment, that neighborhood, that job, that relationship, but find peace and then make the decision of this isn't the right place for me, but without rancor, without vitriol, without blaming. There's a clarity, there's a groundedness where you can leave, let go, quit, if you will, if that's the word you want to use, with peace and grace. And you take that same peace and grace to start a new beginning, or to start 2.0 version of whatever or wherever you're going or looking. Because ultimately, there's the two sayings, like I said, one is, wherever you go, there you are. You're taking that emotion, that energy with you. And then the other saying is, there's no there. If you can find peace and contentment where you are, and it from that place of peace, realize I'm at peace and I'm content, but I just see that I can do more, see more, have more, learn more. Then it's not that you are looking for this, evasive carrot, at the end of the stick. You're bringing a place of peace and contentment with you that grounds you to a point of being able to expand more or jump from. Gosh, that's clunky again. Sorry, everybody. But do you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want to be that fish swimming, wondering, where's the water? You want to be in that place already and have that place of groundedness within you to then venture farther.
I'm smiling because you do this really well, and I'm going to attempt this. Let's see how it goes. You also then give the opposite, and how the advice that we're sharing or the things that we're thinking apply in the other direction as well. So we're talking about when maybe we try a new venture or something, and we go through our first year in it, whatever that looks like, and maybe we hit some obstacles, and those obstacles leave us at a place where we decide, okay, maybe this is not for us, and really moving into something else. The idea that we ourselves are grounded in who we are can help us then move from where we're not necessarily captured by the emotions, but the clarity of what the experience was and who we are and what we bring with it. So I can see the opposite also being where this advice is so relevant, which is when you take on a new venture and it goes beautifully, right? And I can share that this is often the case for myself. So I'm going to speak very vulnerably out loud for a second, which is I will take on something like rock climbing. I mean, this is a silly example. And I will have, quote unquote, a lot of success at the beginning. Okay. Meaning for some reason, like I just figure it out and it goes really well. And then I hit a hurdle, maybe in my second year or 2.0, or as I'm challenging myself. And then I hit that wall, or that it gets hard, or there's struggles. And I don't know what to do. And I don't know what to do because it's been going, I've been swimming along. And then I haven't really hit the current. And then the current comes and suddenly I'm like, whoa, what is this? And I'm really shaken. And now that we are at this point where we're stopping and we're pausing and we're thinking about 2.0, I think the advice is incredibly sound in whatever your experience was in the first year. Maybe it went very, very well. Then you can go, I think, into the second year, like you said, at peace, finding contentment, you're grounded, and then evolve or build or whatever, and continue in the ways that you want if you're not taking a turn or finding some other opportunity. So I just throw out there, you do this so well. I don't know how successful that was. I don't really care. But I think the application of the advice works in both directions. And obviously there's room in the middle. But when you think about something new that maybe presented some really tough challenges, or something new that went amazingly well, the advice I think is still applicable in whatever space in between or those bookends.
Yeah. And, here in Hawaii, a big thing for parents is when a child turns 1. It's a big deal here where very frequently a big party is thrown. It's called the first birthday luau. It's not always an actual luau. All of you on the continent imagining, hula dances and everything, but the first birthday is always or often a big deal here in Hawaii. And it's such a wonderful thing and such a joyful event. And it makes me think of all of the firsts that we celebrate, whether it's for that toddler or that infant, or whether it's what we as adults do in celebrating, our first and our first year. And I also, though, think back on, boy, we don't judge those 1-year-old babies when they are learning to walk towards the end of that first year. We celebrate when they do, but they take a few steps and then they fall. And when they do fall, 2 important things happen at that moment. One is that we certainly don't shame them, right? And say, get up, stupid. Like you took 2 steps yesterday. How come you only took 1 and fell? We just realize that's part of the process. But secondly, also, when you look at babies and toddlers, their reaction is based on our reaction. So a lot of the times when a child, stumbles and falls while learning to walk, we actually applaud them, right? Like, yay, good try, good. And they look at us when they fall. And if we are frozen in fear or panic, as if they're just so fragile like glass, they learn to then be afraid to fall. So there's so much that is learned and given based on our reaction and response to those moments of falling. Does that make sense?
It does. And it does, because I think of our first loves, like our very first relationships. And I know we're kind of moving in the first place, but that's really what we're centering around. And you shared it. And I just had an image of, so my brother and his wife just gave birth to a new baby. And I can't wait to see those first steps. Right. And then what happens when the little guy's support network step up to keep supporting him and keep cheering him on. And I had a friend like that after my very first serious relationship. That was that person that was like, okay, but yes, this is hard and you're sad. And these are all the things that are associated with the ending of your first major relationship. but like, let's cheerlead, let's celebrate all the things that did happen that you can then take into your next relationship. Because I was in the place of like, I'm never going to date again. This is it. I'm going to be celibate and single, and, but we don't say that to a baby.
But yeah, exactly. It's, that space and grace that we allow for kids, let's recognize and allow for ourselves. And then also let's take ownership that our reaction and response teaches them and teaches others, how to react and respond. Even taking it away from the 1-year-old baby, one of the things that my kids and I remember, it's the most random memory, but we were in a restaurant, Romano's Macaroni Grill. This is when they were kids. And there was a waiter that was carrying this big tray, and taking it back to the kitchen. Well, the kitchen is an open kitchen in the back. So you can see all of the hustle and bustle. And all of a sudden you heard this loud crash, and you could just hear and tell that multiple dishes fell. And the reaction of the staff at Romano's, I'm saying the name because I'm like, kudos to this staff. The reaction was they applauded and wooted and whistled, so that it was, obviously not celebrated, but it was made light of and just kind of part of the workday. And this happens, and it removed that like heavy awkwardness and that like, everybody frozen in the restaurant. It just made everybody relax and realize nobody's perfect. It's okay. That happens all the time. And it was just a tremendously light and fun way to recognize, the ordinary. It's very ordinary to drop things and it breaks. It's not ideal, but it's certainly ordinary. And just like, okay, fine. When a baby, is learning to walk, and falls, that's not ideal, but it's ordinary. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
And so that's all part of, the first year and becoming a sophomore. We learn some, we win some, we learn some. That's the sophomore, the wise fool.
As you're talking, what I'm thinking about is that the baby's first year, my professor, the staff at Romano's Grill, there were also outside people that could provide some really important feedback to help the little baby, me, the person that dropped all the dishware and whatnot, to just remember that. And I think our listeners can be those people for us. And I think in this point of pause, we invite you to email us at info@simplyenough.
We beg you,
please. Share with us your thoughts, your feelings as we look at Simply Enough 2.0, and be, the little parents of the toddler, the professor in my life, the staff at Romano's Grill, be those voices for us to help us understand what 1.0, what Simply Enough 1.0 has been like for you, and just what your thoughts are about what 2.0 could be. And no promises on anything, if suddenly they're just like, we want you to juggle. We're like, nah, I don't know that that's going to be the case. But help us be those pieces of feedback as we reflect, because we're going to do that. We're going to talk together and see what's worked for us and what we want to upgrade or up level, to use your words. But it would be so wonderful if you, our listener, would reach out to us and give us a sense of your thoughts and your feelings. So info@simplyenough.me is our email address. And you can also go to YouTube and find any video on YouTube and drop us a comment. Super easy. So, and
you know what else they can do is go on our website, and on our website, there's actually which is simplyenough.me. And on our website, you can actually leave, believe it or not, an audio comment.
That's right.
And so leave comments or leave questions, pose questions. And with your permission, and please do let us know if you give us your permission, we can even use your voice and your comments and your questions as part of Simply Enough 2.0. please engage with us. We would love to hear from you for this next season of our life or next year of our training.
And thank you for being a part of it. Thank you for being those people in our lives. And thank you for joining us on this journey. You know, Elizabeth and I at the beginning said, well, we're really doing this for us. We hope we'll get listeners. And if we do, that's icing on the cake. But
we have, and we're grateful.
Yes. And I've come to like the icing.
We're surprised and grateful at the number of listeners and viewers and downloads that we have. So thank you, everybody. If you haven't, please do subscribe, follow, rate, review, and engage with us. We would love to continue this, and we'd love to continue this with you as part of it.
Amen. So what does this pause mean? Right, Dr. Ignacio. So listeners, we are going to be taking 4 weeks off and returning on March 14th with a new episode ready to go with Simply Enough 2.0. So that means we have from now until then, please reach out to us. Please send us comments. Please go to our website, simplyenough.me, and drop one of those audio comments. We'd love to hear your voices. And you can go to YouTube and drop us a comment on any video that you've watched. And then there's our email address at info@simplyenough.me. All those different ways. We would love to hear your thoughts, your questions. I love that you brought up the questions, because yes, please throw those questions at us. But just know we'll be taking 4 weeks off and returning on March 14th. Oh, and along the way, we will be releasing or replaying some episodes. So there will be episodes still coming, and that may be one that you missed and you're like, oh, great, or one you love and you want to re-listen to it. But as always, they're always available for you. So you can go back, you can choose your own to re-listen to at any point in time. But we will be picking some of our favorites, or ones that we just think we want to throw out there again. So there will be episodes that will be coming out every Tuesday, but a brand new episode on March 14th, Simply Enough 2.0.
To kick off our sophomore season.
Yes. And as always, during the break, don't forget that you are simply enough.
Just as you are. Period.
Love you.
We love you.
We love you.